They said the sequel would be worse than the first bombshell, and now the countdown has Meghan's world shaking behind palace perfect smiles. Tom Bower's Revenge Part 2 isn't just another royal book drop, it's being whispered about like a social grenade with the pin already pulled, and the shockwaves are aimed straight at the Duchess, who once rewrote her own fairy tale. Because here's the twist no glossy photo shoot can filter away, the narrative Meghan fought so hard to sculpt is no longer hers to edit. For years, she and Harry have danced between interviews, documentaries, and carefully timed appearances, always one step ahead of the headlines. But this time, the headlines are loading themselves. Insiders in publishing circles are buzzing that Bower didn't just rely on recycled palace gossip. They say he went digging, deep, uncomfortable, relentless digging across continents through old contacts, former colleagues, forgotten acquaintances, and people who were once safely tucked in the past. The kind of people who remember things, the kind of people who kept receipts. And that's where the panic whispers start. Because Revenge Part 2 isn't being hyped as a polite biography. It's being teased as a systematic dismantling of image versus reality. The Duchess, who branded herself as a humanitarian disruptor, a modern royal rebel, a voice for the voiceless, now faces a storyteller known for lining up timelines, testimonies, and contradictions like dominoes. Critics of Meghan have long claimed there were gaps in her story. Supporters call it unfair scrutiny. But Bower's reputation rests on one thing: building narratives that look less like rumors and more like case files. And that possibility alone is enough to make Montecito feel a little less like a sanctuary. Because if there's one thing Hollywood and royalty secretly share, it's this: image is oxygen. And right now, Meghan's public image is holding its breath. The tension isn't just about what's in the book, it's about what might be confirmed, reframed, or newly spotlighted. Moments that once passed as minor controversies could return with sharper edges. Old workplace stories, early career decisions, relationship timelines, professional fallouts. The stuff that used to live in online forums and comment sections might suddenly appear between hard covers with chapter titles. And once it's printed, it doesn't scroll away. What makes this even more explosive is the timing. Meghan has been trying to pivot: lifestyle branding, curated visuals, soft focus reinvention. A move away from royal grievance and toward aspirational influence. But a reinvention only works if the past stays blurry. A book like this, it adjusts the focus. Observers say the real fear in situations like this isn't outrage, it's erosion. Not one scandal, but a steady drip of doubt. Every future interview filtered through fresh skepticism. Every claim measured against newly resurfaced history. Fair or not, that's how public perception shifts, not with one explosion, but with a slow leak. And then there's Harry, caught in the undertow again. His memoir already peeled back royal curtains, but this narrative isn't being written by him or for him. If the book paints Meghan as the architect of certain decisions, the dynamic between victim, partner, and strategist could be reinterpreted all over again in the court of public opinion. Meanwhile, media outlets are circling like it's awards season for controversy. Excerpts, analysis panels, royal experts, body language breakdowns. The machine is warming up. Because whether people love Meghan, dislike her, or feel exhausted by the whole saga, one thing is guaranteed: they will look. That's the paradox of modern fame. The louder someone says they want privacy, the more the spotlight intensifies when drama knocks. And Revenge Part 2 isn't knocking politely, it's kicking the door with a publication date. Supporters argue this is just another chapter in the long tradition of harsh royal biography. That Meghan is being held to impossible standards, that strong women with ambition always get labeled difficult. Detractors argue this is long overdue scrutiny for someone who built a platform on selective storytelling. The truth, as always, will be fought over in headlines, hashtags, and heated comment threads. But here's what makes this moment different. Control has shifted. For once, Meghan isn't launching the narrative, she's bracing for it. And in the world she stepped into, half monarchy, half media circus, losing narrative control is the closest thing to losing power. If the book lands what the Force publishers are hinting at, the Duchess won't just be dealing with another bad news cycle. She'll be facing a reputational crossroads. Double down and fight? Go silent and wait it out? Pivot again and hope audiences have scandal fatigue? Every option comes with risk. Because the public isn't just watching Meghan anymore, they're watching how she reacts when she isn't the one holding the microphone. Behind closed doors, strategy meetings are probably already happening. Crisis PR veterans know the playbook. don't amplify, don't panic publicly, project calm, line up friendly voices. But even the best crisis strategy can't fully shield against a narrative that unfolds chapter by chapter, week after week, as media dissects every page. And that's the real storm cloud. Not one headline, a season of them. For someone who once spoke about rewriting her destiny, Meghan now finds herself in a story she didn't author, with a narrator who built a career on challenging official versions. Whether readers see the book as truth, bias, or somewhere in between, the conversation it sparks could reshape how her entire journey is remembered. Fairy tale, cautionary tale, or media myth, the label is no longer hers alone to choose. And just when you think the temperature can't rise any higher, the real heat starts coming from the direction Meghan never fully managed to master: long memory media culture. Because Hollywood forgets fast, but it archives forever. And royal history? That's practically built on documentation. What makes this looming release feel different from past waves of criticism is the scale of anticipation. Commentators aren't treating this like just another opinion piece. They're talking about it like a puzzle book, one that promises to line up past interviews, public statements, career moves, and private accounts into a timeline that people will obsessively compare against what they thought they knew. And timelines are dangerous things when your public story has evolved in stages. In every reinvention Meghan has attempted, actress, humanitarian, royal bride, working duchess, independent exile, media producer, lifestyle entrepreneur, came with a slightly different tone, a slightly different emphasis, a slightly different origin story. That's normal in celebrity culture. But critics say when those versions sit side by side, the shifts start to look less like growth and more like editing. And that's the territory this book is rumored to wander into. Not screaming accusations from rooftops, but something quieter and, in some ways, more damaging patterns. Recollections from people who crossed her path at different life stages. Old professional relationships re-examined. Moments that once felt isolated now, potentially reframed as part of a larger portrait. And when readers start connecting dots on their own, the conversation grows legs no PR team can easily trip. Meanwhile, Meghan's brand relaunch energy suddenly feels fragile. Carefully curated photos, soft aesthetics, the I've moved on vibe, all of it risks being drowned out by a louder narrative she doesn't control. Reinvention only works when audiences are ready to suspend disbelief. A tell-all biography challenges that suspension. There's also the uncomfortable reality that controversy fatigue hasn't set in the way some might have hoped. Instead of tuning out, audiences have become amateur analysts. Social media threads already dissect past interviews, facial expressions, word choices. A book like this becomes fuel, not necessarily because every claim is accepted, but because it gives people new material to debate. And debate in the attention economy is oxygen. Harry's position in all this adds another layer of intrigue. Once seen as the emotional heart of the couple's story, he now risks being reframed depending on how the narrative is shaped. Was he led? Was he equally strategic? Was he shielding or being shielded? Public opinion loves to redraw character roles when new information or new interpretations enter the chat. What's especially brutal is that none of this unfolds in private. Every excerpt will be live streamed through headlines. Every reaction clip will circulate within minutes. Morning shows, late night panels, YouTube commentators, TikTok breakdowns. The echo chamber will be instant and relentless. And perception doesn't wait for full context anymore. First impressions form on page 1, sometimes on paragraph 1. Supporters will call the book unfair, say it targets a woman who dared to challenge an ancient institution, argue that ambitious women are always painted as manipulative. Detractors will say it validates long-held suspicions, that inconsistencies finally have documentation, that charm can't outrun scrutiny forever. The middle ground, people who once felt sympathetic but now feel confused, may be the group whose opinion shifts the most, because doubt spreads faster than outrage. The most delicate part of this storm isn't any single revelation. It's credibility drift. When audiences start responding to future projects, interviews, or ventures with "but is that the full story?" that question mark lingers. It shadows everything. Brand deals get more cautious. Partnerships get more transactional. Media outlets get more probing. It becomes harder to sell inspiration when audiences are busy auditing authenticity. And yet there's an irony here that makes the whole saga feel almost cinematic. Meghan rose to global prominence through a story about finding her voice, reclaiming her narrative, stepping out of the shadows of tradition. Now she's facing a moment where the loudest narrative about her might be written by someone else entirely. That's the real emotional undercurrent beneath all the gossip and speculation: loss of authorship. Because for public figures, reputation isn't just about approval. It's about authorship of identity. When someone else starts defining your arc, you're suddenly reacting instead of directing. And reaction mode mode is where missteps multiply. So what happens next? Silence could be read as dignity or as inability to counter. Speaking out could look strong or defensive. Legal pushback raises eyebrows. Ignoring it risks letting interpretations harden. There's no perfect move on a chessboard where every square is under a spotlight. But one thing is certain, this moment cements Meghan not just as a former royal or media personality, but as a permanent figure in the modern myth cycle, part celebrity, part symbol, part controversy. Love her or criticize her, people are still emotionally invested enough to argue. And in fame, being argued about is a strange kind of immortality. The fairy tale narrative may have cracked years ago, but the saga didn't end. It evolved. Now, with this new chapter about to drop into the cultural bloodstream, the story mutates again, not into a simple hero or villain tale, but into something messier and more human. A battle over who gets to define a life lived under relentless attention. And as readers turn those pages, one truth hangs in the air heavier than any single allegation or defense. In the age of permanent headlines, the past never stays buried. It just waits for a new edition. Just waits for a new edition. Just waits for a new edition.